Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you everybody for joining. Good to see everybody here. There's a lot of folks in the chat already, so I'm going to go ahead and put up that map. I see a lot of familiar faces, and if you are joining us live, feel free to type in where you're joining from and let us know, and we will see where your little pin pops up on the map. Trying a couple things new today. I have a new macro on this on the Stream Deck for auto fading out the music, which I should be doing any second now. Looks like it just did that. So that was all hands off because last time I let the music go a little bit longer than I had expected to. And whatever. But now, yeah, maybe 30 seconds isn't long enough. We'll see how it works out. If you haven't figured it out, the map is not doing anything super fancy. It is taking whatever you type in and dropping a pin there. So please don't, like, you know, make up fake places or something. I do like to go back through the map and drop pins on my actual globe back there afterwards. So yeah, so today, again, normally I'll just be answering questions that we get in the chat. And if you do have questions, oh, I saw someone in Alaska and I just realized Alaska is not visible. There we go. Oh, nice. All right. That's pretty good spread today. And someone in Australia. Isn't it like super early in the morning, late at night? One of the two? Well, thank you for tuning in at this very late hour. Today, I am trying out something new with the audio, which I'm going to switch to in a minute. But what I do want to do is, right now I'm on my normal mic, but I've got a new microphone and the Zoom Podtrak that I talked about last week. And I wanted to give that a shot and see how that works in this setup. And we will go switch to that in a second once I quit eCamm so my computer fan can stop spinning up. I just used that for the countdown at the beginning. So yeah, hi Zach, nice to see you here again. So let's take a look at the chat because I think I saw some questions come in already. And somebody turned my light blue. I just noticed my background changed. Thank you for the super chat. Let's go pop over to that and see what's going on there. Pop open the chat. Oh, that was my test message. I need to fix this. When I need to position the window when I load up the chat, so I need a message in there to make sure that the key is right. So I need to I have to actually say something in it. So I need to make it show a test message or something. Simon asks, did you change the chat to show our full names? I just realized that the map version does show the full names, but the chat overlay version does not. So I should probably make that consistent. Music faded nicely. Oops. There we go from Zach. Thanks. And I saw a couple of questions at the beginning. Oh, hey, Rick says, I got your email notice. I forgot that I did that because I automated it. Yes, if you would like to get an email 30 minutes before I go live, I have now completely automated that process. And anytime I'm about to go live, as long as there's a scheduled live stream on YouTube, you will get an email 30 minutes ahead of time. And you can do that. You can go subscribe at news.aaronpk.tv. I'll drop a link to that in the chat. And that is my own little newsletter subscription thing. I have sent out one email about a non-live stream in the past. I was planning on doing that more often, but not automatically. So you're only going to get automatic emails from about the live streams. And occasionally I'll throw in an email about other videos that I've published. Shane asks, what am I going to go over today? We are going to talk about the Zoom Podtrak and this new microphone I'm on, which, speaking of which, I should switch over to that. So let me just scroll back down and see where we're at. Email worked for me too. Yes, cool. And Jason got the email as well. Excellent. I have noticed that some people's Yahoo accounts and AOL accounts are not getting the messages. I don't know. Yeah, don't know. Email is hard. All right. Yes, the super chat from Wendy's. Thank you. I hope this is the real Wendy's. That would just make me very happy. Thank you for the super chat. Does ATEM Mini Pro do multiple pictures in pictures? Not really. No. So the picture-in-picture feature is the upstream key, and there's only one of those on the ATEM Mini. You can kind of do other combinations of videos by doing things with transitions, and it's mainly like split kind of thing, like split down the middle or a third or whatever. But to actually resize one, you only get one of those. That is in the upstream keyer. I do wish they would have multiple, but it is unlikely to happen because it doesn't even exist. Still only one is in the Television Studio HD, which is their next model up after the Mini line. All right. This is... Stanley says, I've tried out your Chrome overlay on the Raspberry Pi. It works well, but it does not seem to have any background to the text. So yeah, you can see that this text background is like a dark gray. And I'm guessing what's happening is the color of the color calibration is making that too close to black. And then it's all getting keyed out. So like if you look at my actual chat window that this is in, let me see if I can yeah, this is the actual chat window that I'm looking at from the Chromecast. And you can see that this background here is ever so slightly darker than this. And that's how, so when the key happens, the key takes out just the black, leaving that dark gray. If the monitor was calibrated so that that looks too far black, then it might not look right. So that's probably what's happening. All right, let me switch over to the microphone so we can get on with that test so you can actually listen to the new mic. So the Podtrak P4, I showed this briefly yesterday, or last week. It is this little thing here, and let me put myself up in the corner. That's my coffee. So this little thing here is the Podtrak, and it has 4 microphones, 4 headphone jacks, powered via USB-C, and has some sound buttons too. And this is, you can plug in XLR microphones, change the gain on them. So I have up, is this going to work? Up, no, I need to turn that, I need to take that off of its little mounting thing. Up here, farther. There we go. I've got 2 microphones now. One is the normal one I use, the little Movo, and the other is an Audio-Technica microphone. And that is running into the Podtrak. And I am going to switch over to that audio now. So this is, you probably can't really tell. But if you look at my, oops, I got them both on. You can kind of look at my multi-view. You can see when I switch the audio, my levels change over here. So this is the new microphone I'm on, and because I am running this into the Zoom headphone jack out to the ATEM, that means I need to add a delay. So in my ATEM audio panel, I had to go here and set up a 3-frame delay to match my camera, which again, I just tested by doing the old clap test technique. I'll demonstrate that right now. This is a neat little trick to figure out the delay that you need without having to do any fancy timing tricks. Turn on both microphones. So you can see both are on now. They're pretty much in sync. If I take this off, now you're going to hear me double. Which is awful. But here's the trick. So you can hear the doubling. Add a frame. Try it again. It's closer. 2 frames. Really close. 3. They're a little bit off, but it's really close. 4. Now it's too far the other way. So I go back to 3. And we can turn that one off, and now it pretty much matches. So that's my little trick for syncing up audio when I don't want to deal with like measuring or recording or anything fancy. So I will leave this on the rest of the time because I think it sounds pretty good actually. And let me know what you think. Seeing some comments here, less background hum. That's good. Yeah, I was hoping it might be a little bit more focused, more isolating. There's not that much noise in here, but there is like, oh, damn. Sorry, left my other, oh, one of my Stream Deck buttons, my macros, is turning on the audio. I had a feeling. Yeah. Okay, let me, and that echo is the fact that the sync is not perfect. So 3 frames was like a little bit not enough or too much. I don't remember which way. But yeah, I'm back on just the one mic now. What I should do though is go fix my macros to stop turning that on. So let's do that real quick. This is my list. This is my macros for all the show. I don't actually use all of these all the time, but I do use things like main camera. This one, which, yeah, so you can see here, it is turning off the second mic, which is the music, and then it's turning on camera 1. And I actually don't, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take out any audio controls. Take out audio controls from these because I don't need them to control the audio. So let me see if I have my 2 cameras. I've got, yeah, these look better now. Make sure there's no other audio controls happening. Pre-roll, I do want audio. Start program, outro, those all control the audio. Oh, this is a good, I'm glad I checked. I need to make sure that this is going to fade out if I leave my this mic on when I fade out the show at the end. I want to make sure that it fades out that mic also. So I'm just going to make it fade out both. And what that's going to do is it's actually going to just change the volume on both. And what I can do that way is it's actually going to only changing the volume. So if only one of them is on, it's not going to turn them both on. It's just going to bring both volume controls down. So I think that's it. I think that's all I need. Oh, this one I do use. Is there any audio in here? No. Any audio in here? No. Great. This one does not contain any audio. Great. I think I'm fine now. There's a fade out music macro, which at some point I'm going to go in here and make it like even slower because I think it's a little bit abrupt. Okay, now I'm going to go and restore this into the ATEM. So let's go back into the ATEM. Restore this. I'm doing this live, which is always dangerous. And I just realized that chat message was up the whole time. So I'm going to take only the macros, restore only the macros, and that is usually pretty safe. So it's not going to change any of the active things in the program. And now when I switch back to my main camera, sure enough, okay, whew, great. Yeah, hey, it's a live show. So this is a good question. Does doing a software update affect the macros? It does not. If you run the software update, it seems to retain all the settings, including all your macros between software updates. However, I wouldn't necessarily count on that to always be the case. So always have a backup of everything. And it's so easy to back this stuff up. Like you just go into the software control and you go file, save as, and then you say backup November 8th. And if you just save everything, it's going to write a new XML file with all of your settings and all your macros. And then you can just restore that in case something does go wrong. And that also saves your media in the media pool. But I'm also very happy that they finally shipped a firmware update somehow to save the media pool across reboots, which is very exciting to me. I'm so glad they did that. I was not expecting that. So yeah, that's awesome. This is the Audio-Technica 875R. I believe I dropped a link in the video description already. If I did not, I'm going to drop a link in the chat. It is, I've had this actually for a long time, and I just haven't had it active. I haven't been using it. It's the 875R. That sounds right. It's, yeah, I've had this mic sitting in a drawer. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this with this XLR thingy, because then we'll, maybe it'll become my new desk mic. Roland says, the reverb is dramatically reduced. Oh, that's interesting too. Yeah. So if it is more directional than the other mic, that makes sense. And yeah, I'm still not properly I've not properly sound treated this room. So I am still just, yeah, I don't know. I need to figure out the how to properly decorate it so that, like, get sound panels that look good, that match the rest of the studio. I wanted to show you the rest of the studio, but I'll do that in a second. Still a bit, yeah, because I have not actually done real sound treatment here. Zach says, the new mic sounds good. Isn't the Podtrak 44.1 only? That is very likely the case. However, it's running out through the analog port to the ATEM Mini Pro, so it doesn't really matter, I guess, because it's turned into an analog signal at that point. Oh, and somehow, whatever I've done here to wire this up, there's no ground hum. I was surprised. So it's powered over a USB-C cable that's plugged into everything else on my desk, and yet somehow there is no ground hum. So I was very pleased about that. All right. Let's see if I missed any. Oh yeah, Blackmagic has a live stream tomorrow, 6 p.m. UK for Resolve 17. I saw that announcement. I'm very curious to hear what they're going to announce. I've been running the 16.3 or whatever beta for a while, so I guess probably just going to be like those features in a new release. We'll see. But yeah, that's I'm curious. I've been using Resolve for all my videos lately, so I will definitely install the update. So that's cool. John says, interested to try the new DJI Pocket 2. Now enables live streaming to YouTube or RTMP servers. It does? I did not realize that. That's interesting. I looked through all of the announcements about this, and I couldn't find anything that caught my attention. I have the original Osmo Pocket, and I love it, but it doesn't work for any live production stuff, because it's just like I do time lapses in it, and it's super fun for moving time lapses. But even if you plug it into a phone, like, it doesn't even let you get the clean HDMI feed out, so I haven't been able to use it for anything live. And if the new one does some sort of streaming, I'm interested again, and I might have to buy it, even though it's mainly a travel camera for me, and I'm certainly not doing any traveling right now. The microphone destroys my hair light. I don't have a hair light. I just have this one in the back. That one. It's not really a hair light though. It's just kind of a backlight. I'm pointing the remote at it. The sound buttons on the Zoom. Yeah, there's little sound effects on it. If it comes with like a bunch of sound effects built in, like, yeah, or there's a little cha-ching, and you can like assign, it comes with like, I don't know, a dozen different sounds, and you can assign 4 of them to the buttons. I'm assuming you can also load in your own sounds, but I haven't tried that yet. I'm guessing can load in sounds from a SD card. Kind of fun. Makes, I guess, fun for like podcasting. It's definitely for podcasting. Roland says, people are receiving the streaming bridges. Yes, I know. I've been seeing pictures and videos from everybody except me because mine has not shipped yet. I don't know when I'm going to get it. We seem to be on the short end of the stick in the US from Blackmagic. So I hope I get mine soon. But yeah, the Raspberry Pi is more versatile because you can just do so much more stuff with it. It's also a little bit more work to set up. So yes, I think the assessment here is right. The streaming bridge is for a user-proof solution. It's not going to mess up like it just does. It's one job, no questions asked. The Pi is definitely better for techies because you can do a lot more fun stuff with it. Nice. You're going to get yours by Thursday, Friday. Hopefully I get mine this week too then. No sign of it in the UK. Interesting. Yeah. Streaming bridge replicas. I haven't seen anything that does quite what the streaming bridge does, I think. So I did order one because I'm curious. I ordered one of the little Uray Tech, that company, Uray Coder, I forget the name. Anyway, they make a bunch of like H.264 stuff, devices for encoding, decoding, RTSP. One of the things they use it for is like you can stick it on the monitor and then pull in a bunch of security camera feeds, right? And like put 4 up on a screen or something. So that's cool. I wanted to play around with it, so I have one coming tomorrow, and it says it supports RTMP streaming. I'm assuming it can only pull, and it would need to be built, pull from a server, whereas the ATEM Mini is pushing an RTMP stream to a server. So I don't think I'll be able to push from the ATEM Mini directly to it. But if you can, that's very interesting because that would be a definite cheap, not necessarily actually that much cheaper. It's only a little bit cheaper than a streaming bridge. But it would, again, be more flexible because it can do a bunch more stuff. Chris says, I have a couple of those. They are okay. Yeah. Hyperdecks are flowing again. That's good to know too. Hyperdecks have been out of stock for a long time. So that's good that they are shipping. I have one that I replaced the fans on here, and I need to actually create some motion graphics so that I can actually take advantage of it here and like do a countdown off of that at the beginning of the stream, things like that. So I'm trying to do some motion graphics work on that and have some sketches in Keynote. I might have to just pay somebody to do it though. Uray boxes can use SRT, yeah, and has better latency. That is true. And they have both encoders and decoders. So yeah, for example, you can get one of each encoder decoder, run over SRT, go do point to point from those boxes, and SRT would definitely be lower latency than the RTMP. There is unfortunately no way to map macros to buttons on the ATEM Mini. That was like my first request. So that's in the list Blackmagic has for me of feature requests. And because like honestly, I don't press most of the buttons on that thing, and I would rather be able to run macros from those. So we'll see if they can pull that off. It should be firmware, doable in firmware. But no word on that yet. Alan says, I bought 2 HDMI splitters to try to fix the pass-through on the C-Tech monitor. One passes through but screws up color. I think you're just going to have to keep trying. The color, I'm assuming, is the RGB YUV mismatch. So, I don't know. HDMI splitters are weird, and it's always a toss-up as to what you're actually getting when you buy one of those. But like the one that I'm using here for my Chromecast that the chat is running through, it stopped being sold. It started being sold as a HDCP supported one, which means it's not going to serve HDCP. So I can't recommend that one anymore, but I do have 2 more coming from random companies off of, I think it was banggood.com that I got it. So we'll see if those work. Mike asks, what RAM config would you recommend on the Pi 4, potentially using for Hyperdeck, playout, and streaming bridge? So the streaming bridge doesn't require that much RAM, actually. But the playout stuff probably does, because that has to load up a whole GUI. Whereas the streaming bridge just kind of goes through the graphics card. I think mine is 4 gigs that I've got here. If the 8 gigs, yeah, Roland is saying if the 8 gigs isn't much more expensive, go for the 8 gigs. It's gonna just, like, if you, the more the better always, but I'm pretty sure 4 will get by just fine if you need to save the money. I wouldn't go below 4 though. Yeah, they should create ATEM software control for Android tablets or iPad. So you can get a third-party app for the iPad. I don't know if it's available on Android or if there's an Android version, but there is an app that can do some of the things the software control can do. So Strata Macros is one that is just a bunch of buttons for running macros. So it's not, you have to program it with a computer, but then it's very easy to run a show through it because you just get buttons for all your different things. But there's another one, Strata Control or something. I forget the name of the app, but it's also with that Strata name. And that one has more buttons that look like the software control of like turning on individual cameras and things like that. Strata Pro, yeah. So it's not a perfect solution because it does not have all of the buttons in the ATEM software control, but it does do some of the things. Have I tried the new Pi 400? I'm not cool enough to get pre-order, like pre-release versions of the Raspberry Pi. Maybe someday I will if I do enough Raspberry Pi tutorials, but I did buy one because I'm just really curious about it. That's a little keyboard that has a Raspberry Pi in it. It looks like a keyboard, but it's got a whole computer in it. I have to say, I'm pretty excited about that because the main thing that I don't like about using Raspberry Pis in shows and in productions is that you have to bring another keyboard. You have to like bring a keyboard to use it. And then I have to plug in the Raspberry Pi and plug in the keyboard and figure out where those go on the desk. And I really like the idea of just like having a built-in keyboard with this thing. And then you just plug in HDMI into your keyboard and now magically you can run graphics off of it. So I'm pretty excited about that. And they have a little mouse that you can attach to if you want to do stuff with a GUI. And yeah, I'm excited. Looking forward to that. I have no idea when I'm going to get a chance to actually try it out, but it should be arriving, I don't know, sometime soon, hopefully. Oh, this is a great question from Newton. I'm a personal trainer and have the ATEM Mini Pro. I wanted to know if it can switch camera angles automatically every 2 minutes to show different training angles. So yes, you can do that. I actually did a video about this. And if you go look at, I'll just drop a link in the chat, but if you go look at my channel looking for videos, it is called the thumbnail says automatic camera switching. It's how to auto switch multiple cameras for podcasts and performances, and apparently also training. So that's cool. I'll drop a link in the chat though. It is not too hard to set up. Basically what you do is, let's see, auto switching cameras. There we go. Basically what you do is you make a macro to change between camera angles with whatever delay you want on each angle. And you can choose delay per angle. And then you choose whatever you want to loop. So you can make it do like one after the other just once, or you can do like camera 1, camera 2, camera 1, camera 4, whatever you want. You make your loop, make it however long you want. And then when you run the macro, you can say run on a loop. And then it'll just run this macro forever. And the only downside is there's no buttons on the ATEM to run macros, which means you have to have something else to start the macro. You have to have an iPad or a Stream Deck and a computer set up, or a computer, I guess. But yeah, then once you start that macro, it'll loop forever. Super cool. But yeah, take a look at that video because I walk through it step by step in that video. All right, where was I in the chat? Oh, I'm getting behind now. Oh, there was another question that I missed. Yes. Larry asks, how do you compare the YOLO box versus the ATEM Mini Pro for remote event coverage? I'm curious what you mean by remote event. So my thoughts about these two, they're very, very, very different devices, and they work for very different use cases. The YOLO box is, they just announced an update, actually, a firmware update, which I need to install. You can see comments from streams now on the YOLO box, which is super cool. So I'm looking forward to that. But the sort of main difference is like all-in-one versus build a rig from small parts. So the YOLO box is like, that's all you need in a camera, and you can go live. It only has 2 inputs, so 2 cameras instead of, ATEM Mini has 4. But it also then has like built-in graphics generation stuff. So what I've found the YOLO box is more useful for is like if I'm streaming myself out somewhere, like in the Smoke Apocalypse live stream, which at some point I'm going to do another outdoor live stream with that again, now that they launched the new live chat feature, and the firmware update is different from, like the firmware is different from when I did that stream. So it's great for that because it's so small and portable, and that is why I'm trying to make this ATEM Mini Pro case to sort of do the same thing with ATEM Mini. The ATEM Mini Pro, it's a lot more like work to get going, right? There's a lot more setup. It takes a lot more things. So you have to plug in a monitor, you have to plug in a computer probably to set up the control, unless you really prep your show ahead of time and are relying on macros. So as for like, that's why I'm curious about what you mean by remote event coverage, because if you're talking about like shipping this to somebody, that's going to factor into that decision too, of like how easy for somebody else to use. Okay, let's see. Touch Director on iOS is great. Oh, I haven't tried that one. It's good to know. I'll have to take a look. ATEM software control on the Raspberry Pi would be great. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen because it's not really that software control. It does not run on Linux. You could definitely run I saw someone working on a browser-based equivalent of the software control, where it's like uses the SDK to send all the commands, and then it gives you like a browser interface, which then would run on the Raspberry Pi. And it's not going to be quite the same as the software control app that Blackmagic ships, but it would probably do most of the things you need. And yeah, that is kind of what you need to do in order to run it on Linux. You won't be able to run the actual software control on Linux, which is too bad, but yeah. MJ says, what will be the next Blackmagic ATEM? Something like the TV Studio? It's impossible to tell, and it's not a good idea to speculate, but I'm going to do it anyway. The reason I say it's impossible to tell is because every time I have made any prediction or guess about what Blackmagic is doing, they do something completely different. Like, nobody saw this coming, nobody saw the Pro coming, nobody saw the ISO coming, and then they shipped a firmware update saving the images in the media pool, which I didn't think was possible to do in firmware. So awesome. But here's what I will say. Notice the coloring here. This is that dark black. Here's dark black, dark black, or dark gray. These ones are all light gray. And then this one is dark. All of their new stuff is in this new color scheme that is this darker gray. These 3 have not changed. So I suspect anything new they're doing in the ATEM line is going to be in this tier. This is the $2,500 and up 4K. 2ME means you get more effects and things like that. Notice that you probably can't really tell, but like you can do the newscaster style, what they call it, super source. There it is, where you get like multiple camera feeds that you can scale and position with backgrounds. So that's where you can do that fancy stuff. I think that's what we're going to see next, because they've got now the intro tier. This one needs updating, but it still is that new style. So we'll see. I think it's going to be these 3. That's just my guess. I'm probably going to be wrong because, yeah, I haven't predicted anything right. Roland says, if you bring along your own travel router, you can run the Pis headless. Oh, yeah. I mean, depends on what you're using the Pi for. So it's not that you need a keyboard to find the IP address or whatever, but like if you're using it as a streaming bridge, yeah, you don't need a keyboard because it turns on and it's ready to roll. But if you want to do anything else with it, like run H2R graphics on it or whatever, then yeah, you're going to need some way to control it. The new Pi 400 even got an on-off button. Blackmagic, do you hear that? Yeah. The new Pi has a new CPU. Oh, interesting. That's cool. Larry says remote wedding. Okay, so if you're shooting a wedding. So I guess like it's also if you're choosing between YOLObox and ATEM Mini Pro, it's also a matter of like what you are more comfortable with, because I like using the ATEM Mini Pro here because I am very familiar with it and I trust the hardware, and I don't care that I have to kind of like sprawl everything out here. I am curious about what happens if I try to cram everything into a case so I could use it outside the studio. I don't know how that's going to actually work in practice, because I have a feeling we're still going to need some other things like power supply or a giant battery or let's see, I've got the monitor on the case, but then there's going to be like a cable for the camera or whatever it is. So if you need to be like running around, the YOLObox is gonna be way better because it's just like all one self-contained thing. But if you can like set up a desk, you might get more options by using the ATEM Mini. All right, let me see. Let's scroll down and see what I was. Okay, here's a good one. What's the secret to keeping an upstream key on when switching between inputs? So there's two things. You can see that I'm doing that, right? When I switch between, I should probably get this camera into an angle that actually looks good. Let's take the camera back up here so I can switch and show you what I mean. All right. So when I switch angles, you can see that the chat stays, right? Because what I've done with the macros. There's two parts of this though. So if you look at the ATEM setup app, there's a setting in here. Oops, that's on my wrong screen. There's a setting in here called picture-in-picture keyer, drop with transition, stay on with transition. So what this does is if you choose stay on, then when you press buttons on the ATEM, like on the ATEM itself, then your upstream key stays on. Otherwise, pressing the button will turn off the keyer. But that does not affect what you do in the software control or in macros. And this always just is its own, like if you switch in the software control, it's always going to keep the keys on. Does the Zoom P4 have a noise gate or compressor? So it has a couple of things. It has a low cut filter, which is on by default, and it has a limiter, which is on by default. And you can kind of hear it when kicking in. Sometimes when I'm talking, I'll turn it off. So this is with the limiter off now. So I'll leave this off for a little while. But that seems to be all it does. I don't see anything else in here about audio. Yeah. So limiter and low cut. But the ATEM has a bunch more stuff in here. So I'm actually running effects in the ATEM right now too, even with the Podtrak. This is the Podtrak mic, and I've got a bit of an expander compressor on it. And let's see, I don't think EQ is not on because I did not, I don't actually remember what I was doing with that curve. I don't remember. But yeah, I don't have an EQ on that right now. Chris says, I must be missing something. Even with that setting, the upstream graphics key drops when switching inputs using the ATEM buttons. That's really strange. It should be keeping them on. That's literally what that setting is for. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to tell you. If you are pretty sure you're doing things right, then it is worth emailing Blackmagic support because they are very responsive and they will help you figure it out. Does eCamm Live also work with Microsoft Teams to bring in a guest? Microsoft Teams. So eCamm has a appear as a virtual camera mode where you can use the software that appears to be a virtual camera to other pieces of software on the computer. So it should work with Microsoft Teams. However, I haven't actually used Microsoft Teams, and I don't know if there's anything in particular about that software that prevents it from working with software cameras, but it should work. Okay, just for people who are joining, if you do have a question for me, I'm mainly looking at the ones that are, if you mention my full name, it gets my attention because it turns orange on my screen. So you can see that they are a lot easier for me to see when you have my name in front of them. And otherwise, I'm assuming it's people talking back and forth to each other. And if you do want to really get my attention, you can super chat me and my background changes color. And I might even do the sound effect for that. Where was I? Most budget solution outside of apps for macro control. I think not apps if you're not talking about an iPad app, then your options are kind of limited. I think honestly the Stream Deck, because it's only like 100 something, and it of course requires running into a computer or a Raspberry Pi as well. But if you use a Raspberry Pi, that's pretty cheap, and that's pretty affordable. There's some other like dedicated hardware, not like the Blackmagic panels; those are ridiculously expensive. But there's some third-party hardware as well, but those are also very expensive because they are pretty fancy and nice, solid buttons and stuff. But the Stream Deck is pretty affordable, I think. Oh yeah, this monitor. This is a, let me see if I have a link, but it is a little, it is a little 13-inch flat monitor, and this is the, let's see, this is a 15-inch version. Oh, no, is that 15 or 13? No, I don't remember which one. I think that's 15. But yeah, it's cool because it is very, very thin. And I've got the Hollyland Mars on the back, Velcroed to it. And that's just being held on by Velcro. And then I found this right angle HDMI cable, which makes it a little bit nicer than sticking out. And the monitor is powered via USB. So it's actually, I could attach a battery to the back of it and make it totally wireless, but it's actually just running on a cord down here and plugged into the wall. Thanks for joining, Joe. Good to see you. What are free macro controls for iPad? I don't know if there's a free app for the macro control. I'm not sure. I only know of Strata macros, although somebody mentioned another one up here earlier, which I'm going to check out. Do you have a solution for the ATEM Mini Pro full cache issue? It is, full cache means that the ATEM Mini is not able to stream. Something's wrong with the connection. So either you're pushing up more data than you have bandwidth for, so it's buffering, or it just completely lost the connection. And the cache is there just so that if you do like temporarily drop your internet connection, it doesn't drop the data. So like you'll see, I want to actually do this at some point. But if I actually just yank out the cord, you will, if you're watching live, you'll see YouTube will like start spinning, be like, oh, there's no data. If I plug it in, it'll pick up from immediately from where I left off. And you won't notice any gaps, which means the playback will be seamless as well. And it can do that because it is caching the data even when it doesn't have an internet connection. So the cache is limited in size, so it eventually will fill up, and then it'll actually start losing data, dropping data. But yeah, if the cache is getting full, it means that something is wrong. So either you're trying to stream at 10 megabits and your internet only supports 2, or you lost your internet connection. That's a good question. It's possible to key for green screen and have graphics overlay at the same time. It is. And I'm trying to think if I can show that. I think I can. Because it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be a bit rough, but I can show. That'll work. It's not the best. Oh. I did not notice that was actually in the frame this whole time. My hair was dark enough that I didn't see it. Yeah, okay, now I've got a green background. It's not perfect, but we can try it. So if I go back to my computer and go to upstream key, let's take off the, there we go, let's get rid of that border. I should be able to key out the green from this. So let's go to chroma, fill source main camera. Oh, I can't change the color when it's on air, but it's already set to some green. So if we do this, should, why is it, there we go. Okay, I need to actually pick that color, that green. Chroma sample, bring myself back on. There we go. Totally working. And the reason this works is because the upstream key is doing the chroma keying, and the downstream key is showing the chat. So that chat is overlaid from the downstream key, and the upstream key is my green screen. And it's also doing a flying key, which you may or may not want. So if I turn that off, for example, then I'm now normal size, full size. That was a little bit too aggressive. My plant is getting keyed out. There we go. Not the best green screen job because I did not light that appropriately, but it's doing something. There we go. Anyway, yeah, totally works. It's fun. And now let me undo all that. And back to there, and back to there. Cool. And where was I? So yeah, the trick is that you use upstream key for one, downstream key for the other. Will the cache be enough to keep a stream alive or in a failover situation with 2 LTE connections? Totally, yeah. You can it'll buffer for several minutes. Yeah, the hair light was that was the deal. It was, I didn't notice my mic was there. Someone thought that it was the hair light getting messed up by the mic. Where was I? Okay, oh, I skipped a few. Cost of a SIM card for the yellow box will be the same as a hotspot for the Netgear for the ATEM Mini. What option do you prefer in terms of data? Yeah, you're gonna need a SIM card you're gonna need an LTE connection somehow. And the, one of the advantages of having a dedicated hotspot device in either case is that you can attach more devices to it. Like you could have your You can have internet for your iPad or whatever too. I actually just took the SIM out of my phone and used it with the YOLO box, or I could pop it into a travel router as well, and then on my phone can still have internet because I can get onto that hotspot. And the YOLO box works fine with the SIM in it, but you can also then connect it to Wi-Fi. So if you have or Ethernet. So if you have a network like a dedicated travel router, you could do that instead. This is a good point. Companion has a web interface with buttons. I always forget about the web interface. So I can just show you because I have it here. This is configuring the buttons. But if you open this up, you get a little, where's my, there we go. Here are my main buttons. And this is like emulating a Stream Deck, but so it's got the same like number and locations of them. But yeah, I can just like tap these now and they run macros. So you can run anything you can do with Companion, which means you can make buttons for doing individual like operations, switching camera 1, camera 2, or run macros with them. So it's super useful. And there's a mobile interface as well. So this works a little better on an iPad. But yeah, that's actually a great option, and that is a free app. Free app. You need a Raspberry Pi or something to run it on, or your computer. Alan says, I just looked at Touch Director. It looks awesome. Cool. I'll have to take a look at that. How do I monitor audio on Zoom via eCamm through the Blackmagic ATEM Mini? Monitor audio on Zoom via eCamm. Whoa, there's a lot going on there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what this is asking because there's a lot of things in that chain. The eCamm has a option to route audio out to a separate device if you want. Yeah, sorry, I'm not quite sure what the question is. Would splitting the Ethernet output of the ATEM Mini Pro with a hub work to get a second video output via a stream bridge and still retain standalone hookup to router normally? Not really. So there's no really such thing as like splitting Ethernet. It is just Ethernet, and it like if you plug it into a switch, you get multiple ports, but it's not doing anything special to the one source, right? It's not like a video signal. So the ATEM can only stream to one thing. So that thing can be a streaming bridge, or YouTube, or a Raspberry Pi that can then stream to YouTube and show it on its HDMI, for example. So if you wanted to do that, that's how you could like get a second video output. All right. Does the YOLO box support network sources? Yes, I haven't been able to test it, but what it does support is other YOLO boxes. I only have one, but apparently if you have more than one, you can pull in a feed from another one into one. I haven't seen the option of pulling in like RTSP cameras. I can't remember if that's on their roadmap though. But there's at least that. I also want to know if there's any easy, free, or cheap ways to do lower thirds. $1,000 add-on purchase for Pro Presenter? Jeez. Okay. Yeah. Take a look at H2R Graphics. This is a good program for lower thirds. H2R Graphics, and I'll drop a link in the chat. This is a free app. It runs on a computer, and then you would need to plug in that computer into the ATEM somehow. So you take like a HDMI cord from your computer, plug into the ATEM, drag the screen over there, and then you can do lower thirds and a lot more on that, and it's free. Very highly recommended because it is pretty easy to use and very low cost. Okay, scrolling back through the chats. Thanks. The green screen demo. I guess I should collapse that now. Whatever. Just have a green background the rest of the show. It's possible to change the small picture input with only hardware buttons. Small input's always camera 1. It defaults to camera 1, but if you go into the software control and change it here, I guess it would be DVE. If you change it here, then it stays on the hardware button. So whatever that is set to, the hardware button will turn on and off. Thank you, Larry. I just saw the super chat and now I realized that this is blocking the background. Uh-oh, it's gonna be loud. Now the light matches. Thank you. All right. Is there a way to call a macro from another macro? I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I tried this. However, if you're using Companion, you can. You can make a button on Companion that does more than one thing. So a Companion button can run one macro and then like wait some amount of time and then run another one. So that gives you some options for chaining things together and building sort of like presets or building blocks that you can then link up. All right. I know I didn't quite get to all the questions. Sorry. There's a lot of questions, but yeah, thank you all. I think we're going to wrap up here. And Roland's been doing a great job of answering questions in the chat as well with I'm not Aaron, but I like it. And yeah, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here. Let me bring the music back on and see if we get a little bit of outro music then. Yeah, let me know if you think this microphone was better though, because I'm curious to go back and listen and see if this might be a new part of this situation. But yeah, and the Podtrak, oh yeah, I didn't even talk about like the reason I got this, which was the USB audio interface. So I'm hoping that by using it as a USB audio face with the Mix Minus, I can use it for guest workflows. So we'll talk about that later when I actually try to bring on a guest again. And thank you for the super chat. And I will see you all in the next video.